Alrighty, let's see. Cool. See some of our Europa sponsors in the room. Thanks for joining. Make Brian a co-host here. Alrighty, I think. Let me just check our stream.
Hello,
It's
everybody.
okay. Wow, that was so loud in my ears.
I'm so sorry.
Wow. Wow.
At least I know the microphone's working.
It's working. All right, welcome everyone. We're recording and live streaming, so we thought we would use today's let me go slideshow here. We thought we'd use today's weekly sponsor webinar and insider that we do every Thursday at 9 as a deep dive to SaaStr Europa. I see a lot of our Europa sponsors in the room and on the live stream, so we're excited. There is quite a bit to get through as we were making this deck. We realized it was a little dense, so we'll try and keep it light. If you have questions at all, any questions related to things you see on the screen or things we might be missing, please drop it into either the chat or Q&A. Either one works. That's part of why we're here, is to do the ultimate sponsor guide to this year's SaaStr Europa. Waylon and Brian are here to help me, just with their best tips and tricks to help activate, kind of final-ish reminders, because we're about a month away from Europa, so super exciting times. So yeah, without further ado, we're gonna jump right into it. Again, I'll try and speed through most of this. Yeah, since a lot of it is in the sponsor portal, which we'll chat about in a second. A lot of this I think we've covered on individual calls, but if you haven't had one with this yet, or you feel like you need one after this call, obviously just let us know. And yeah, without further ado, SaaStr Europa 2024. Let's get into it. So overview, I think you guys know this. So it is the 4th and 5th of June. There is some stuff on the 3rd. So as a sponsor, if you haven't booked your travel yet, good idea to have at least some of your team arriving, either early morning of the 3rd, to be there to activate in the afternoon of the 3rd for sponsor load-in, and then the opening reception that we're doing on site. So I'll cover all that, but just to call out there on the dates and times, I'll also call out in a second what times you are technically done with the show, if that helps book travel out if you haven't done so already. Because most of you know, we're at Tobacco Docs. So if you were a sponsor last year, this is the or an attendee last year and we're now sponsoring. This is the same venue we were in last year. It's in central London. Tobacco Docs, fairly easy to get to, by, which is on the next slide, rail, cab, all those things, Uber. Super handy. As a sponsor, I'm going to call this out. I do recommend clicking this link once we send the full slide deck, or you could just go on the Tobacco Docs website. There is a link that they have for their 3D tour. I do recommend doing it if you haven't been before. It'll just give you a good sense of like the bearings. They've got like one of these Matterports. The one you'll want to really go through is the ground floor. This is where like 99% of things are this year's on the ground floor. So it kind of drops you into this, like, let's see where it drops us. Dollhouse mode, I think. So yeah, it'll drop you into Great Gallery, which is like stage A, which is a little confusing. But if you come right out here, this is like, and go up, like this is where the first sponsor section is over here. Why I call this out is like, this is a perfect example of Tobacco Docs is an indoor-outdoor space, as you can see in this walkthrough. Like, obviously you're undercover as a sponsor here, right? But you are you're covered, but you're in the elements, if you will, just because the fact of like, the roof doesn't go all the way across. It is contiguous, or it isn't contiguous, I should say. So yeah, just one thing to keep in mind there, right? So like if you're in the, diamond, platinum, and super gold level, this is basically your area here under the cover, right outside of stage A, right across from the networking. And then hopefully, without making you guys nauseating, I'll just go real quick to where the golds are, which are down this walkway. But you'll see kind of the same thing. It's undercover, but also, the roof doesn't go all the way. So just bear that in mind. We do have things like umbrellas and stuff for shade if the sun moves and hits you. But yeah, you guys are under this cover here. So again, same idea, the roof doesn't go all the way across. You guys are under where the canopy is, if you will, but it is indoor outdoor. I just got off the phone with the venue and they're like, it's great weather today. And it was
I
last
love
year.
this virtual tour. This is I don't
Right?
think
It's
we've done a
handy.
virtual tour of the space. This is excellent. This is
No,
great.
it's super handy. Yeah, I actually feel like I need to get one made of San Mateo next, but
Right?
it's super handy. So yeah, if you haven't
Yeah.
done that, look around it. Basically, to get your bearings, like it is a historic building in the UK. It was an old shopping mall, I think they've said at one point. So once you kind of know that, it kind of makes sense how the buildings are spread out.
Mhm.
But yeah, recommend doing that before you come. It'll actually help get you a good sense of things. But again, just calling out those two areas there, so now you kind of know where your sponsor area is at least. Okay, that took me in a weird direction, so I'm going back. But yeah, super handy to do that as a sponsor. And then again, I know I call it out on other slides, but just again, bear in mind it is indoor outdoor. So again, we do have things like extra umbrella. You are undercover, but we do have extra things like, umbrellas, that kind of thing. But if you haven't ordered your swag yet, good call out there of how the look and feel and the vibe is. But it's super gorgeous. We did it last year. It was great weather. We do a lot of things like, iced coffees and like cold beverages. I know a lot of you have activations, which we'll chat about. And I said I would be speedy, and I'm not. So I'm gonna keep going. All for being speedy.
You're doing
We're doing great. Okay. Accommodations and getting around. So as a sponsor, if you don't know the area or if you have some of your team, I think when I've seen people register their teams, I've seen a mix of both like local and then like, kind of like North America contacts or worldwide. Again, really easy to get to. You can just literally get in a cab and tell them tobacco docks. They'll know where to take you. There is a car park. So if for some reason you're driving with some of your stuff or you have a rental, this is how to book the parking at the car park because you do need to pre-book it. It's literally right across the street. It does have standard operating hours though. So like 7 in the morning, which will cover you in the mornings. It does close at 7 in the evening though. So that's one thing to be mindful of. Like if you're coming and staying late, let's say on day 0, or if you're staying late for loadout, you want to make sure you move that car before the gate closes at 7, because it closes promptly at 7. So just one thing to keep in mind there. Say most people, I don't think you need a car unless you really want one for some reason, because it's easy to get off of the rail, the tube, and just by cab. So it's in central London, so it's really easy to get to. All right, the sponsor portal. Hopefully, you guys have all been in this. I know you all submitted your boots there, so you probably have been. But for any extended team members, we're, for instance, going to be adding this recording and all of these slides to the sponsor portal. So we're going to keep updating it, even going up to the event. So the latest and greatest will still live there, just calling that out. And then, yeah, in terms of schedule, for those who maybe haven't booked travel or maybe finalizing like your schedule within SaaStr Europa, within the bounds of your travel, calling out on Monday, June 3rd, we do an early badge pickup and then a sponsor early booth setup. What do we mean by setup? The booths are turnkey. So like we'll print all the graphics. Your booth will be fully set up with like power, your monitor, everything we'll go over in a second for your booth inclusions. That will all be set up. This is really if you're shipping anything via GSM or you're bringing anything on site yourself, and you want to set up your booth and get your badge early. This is really the best time to do that. We do highly recommend it for all sponsors. I know a lot of you have like activations and swag and giveaways. It's a really great time to get in beforehand, so that you can set up your booth and your space, manage your storage, get your booth all set up and finalized and squeaky clean, and ready for the next day. It just saves a lot of stress versus having to do that all the day of, and it also being day one. Day one turns into a really long day if you do it that way. Can be done. It just turns into a long day, in my opinion. So that's why we have the 3rd. Also good idea to take advantage of our opening reception. So this is at Tobacco Docks. We're using just like the outside area where the ships are, as well as our registration area to do like a little kickoff reception that is open to all ticket holders. So yeah, come, have a drink, get your badge, start to mix and mingle. We also concurrently have not to be confused, but we also concurrently have a VIP reception. It is invite only. So this is one that we are inviting folks to. So as you're registering your team, we're keeping an eye out. If they're at like a VP level and above, we will add them to this reception. If you feel like you have people in particular that meet that bar and you want to make sure they get added, just email myself, and we will help you look into that. Were you going to say something?
I might just add one thing.
Yes, go.
First and foremost, take advantage of the day before. I think a lot of people don't, and then they regret it. So I'm just going to double down on that. Take advantage of that. But most importantly, just that area, London Bridge, pretty busy area, especially especially like around the times of this event. Maybe if you're considering driving in for like bringing in your swag or whatever it may be, like that might make sense. But if you're going to the event, that's really weird that it just did that. Sorry, the trigger. If you're going to the event, I would maybe London has such really excellent things from cabs to trains to
Yeah.
everything else that just look at transportation. It might just make more sense and it's going to get you more flexible.
Yeah.
I would plan for that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of great, hotels and stuff in the area. So
Yeah.
um yeah, it's central. So fairly easy to get to. Yeah, I would say I think I only know of like two people who rented a car last year. But yeah, I don't think you need one unless you really want one. Coming into the first full day, so Tuesday, June 4th. So sponsors, have some early access here in the morning before it's open to the general audience. You've got half an hour in the morning. So 7:30 to 8 pretty much, come to get your badge early, and then you kind of have between 8 to 9 to finalize your booth setup. I say this about all SaaStr events, and it's true of Europa. We always have early birds. So I know the sponsor hall doesn't officially open till 9, but registration opens at 8. There will inevitably be some people walking around. So doesn't mean you have to fully staff, your booth, but if you've got at least one person there, there's always early birds at annual or Europa. They know the sponsor hall obviously officially opens at 9, but some people really like to get there early. And so just calling that out. You do have that extra half hour to pick up your badge if you have, for instance, team members who are just coming on the 4th or the 5th. Not everyone needs to come on the 3rd. But that is something where you could take advantage of that so that they can get their badge before, the general crowds kind of start coming at 8:39 is usually when they start to come. And then day one happy hour. So 3:30 to 5:30. Again, make sure you've got hopefully an exec in the booth at that time to take advantage of happy hour. We set up bars all throughout the campus, but specifically in the sponsor area. So going to be a ton of traffic all day, but especially during happy hour. Similar to the 5th, same lineup here where you have early access in the morning. It's just half an hour later. Batch pickup will still be open if you have any new team members coming or rotating in. Sponsor hall is open, 9 to 5. We've got the happy hour and closing reception. Again, that's one of the things where if you can stay through the full duration of the closing reception till 6, we do recommend it. And then loadout officially starts at 6. Quick call out there on loadout, what do you need to do? So the booth is fully turnkey. This would just be if you have anything you do want to ship back because you have too much that you brought or you acquired some stuff that you want to ship back. That would be really all you need to do during the sponsor loadout is take what you brought with you. And then, if you want to ship anything back, you'll coordinate it with ourselves and then GSM just to ship it back to wherever you want. It doesn't have to be where it came from. And that's kind of it for loadout. It's fairly easy. We'll talk about the leads in a little bit, but those are all in real time. So that's really all you have to do for loadouts. Really easy. So that's kind of the latest you can expect to be there on the 5th if you're trying to also fly out that evening. Okay. Coming into a few things on the campus. I know a lot of you have already seen this because you've been picking your boots. So try and again, go quickly on this. Hopefully you'll do the walkthrough. Just a few areas I want to call out here. So, stage A is, our Stage A. It's Stage A. You'll see a lot of really great content on there. If you're on SaaStrEuropa.com, you can see the full schedule of which content is on which stages. As I mentioned earlier, this area between Stage A and then what we call the pub is host to our Super Gold, Platinum, and Diamond sponsor. The pub, which is presented by IBM, hosts it's as the name entails. If you're like, what the heck is the pub, Amelia? It's as the name says. So in the mornings, the pub actually has iced coffee because we're not trying to get people lit at 7 a.m. But it has breakfast snacks, coffee, iced coffee, I think it's got juice or something like that in the mornings, and breakfasty items in the pub. Then it flips to lunch. Then it flips to I think cold drinks, and then it flips to a bar for happy hour and snacks. So it is an all day food place because it is the pub. You just are not, and it will have beer in the afternoon, just not at 8 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, it is actually a working pub, if you will. You can come grab a drink at any time. It just may not always be beer, but you can come grab a drink at any time. It's also hosted where we're doing the 1-on-4 group brain dates. So I appreciate that there are two kind of brain date lounges. One of them is in the pub with the group. So if you have a group brain date, go to the pub. That's really the difference there. So yeah, pub is a great place to hang out. It was really crowded last year, which is great. Great place to network and meet folks. If you're looking for a place to just hang out, the pub is a good one. A few other places. So we've got like a founders lounge that Rome is hosting, and then a VC lounge. Again, if you qualify for those, these are access controlled. So just calling that out, we will have people checking, badges at the doors to make sure if you're in the founders lounge, you have to be a CEO or founder or a guest of that person if you're going with them. And the VC lounge, you have to either be an investor or a founder. So that's the onus there. Hopefully that's straightforward. The other thing I'll call out is the sponsored meeting room. So I know a few folks were asking us just in the lead up to this if they have a space on site where they can take calls, meetings, etc. There is a sponsor meeting here across from the workshop stage. I think I call it out later as well, but I'll just call it now. It's not like pre-bookable or anything. We tried that at annual and we saw most people just want to kind of like come in as they want. So yeah, it's just, first come, first serve. There should be space in there for sponsors, but that's a dedicated meeting area you can use. Obviously it's not private, but you can always use that space to take a meeting or take a break. Other places you can take a meeting, there's the co-working space that's in Quayside 4 and 5. The cantina, which has, some more kind of snacks and stuff, has seating in it as well. Honestly, since it's supposed to be really nice out, knock on wood, I would go outside and take a meeting. It is gorgeous by the ships. We've got, tons of tables and umbrellas out there. There's food out there too. Like I would go outside. That's just me though. So
Flex photo opportunity. Let's just be real. Like
yeah,
bring
that
your out
too,
there.
right? Yeah, I
Photo.
like the outside a lot at both of our events, but I do like I feel like it's very London that you're like by all the pirate ships.
Ha!
It's
I
kind
love
of
that.
fun.
It
Yeah,
is
it's
very
very
London.
fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Very London. So again, read through the rest of this map, just get yourself situated. Obviously, you'll get the swing of things as you come in. Just know that, most things are upstairs. Last thing I'll call out on this, because we are I want to get to a lot of other points I want to hit, but just because we are going through this, like why we label Pennington Street and Wapping Lane. So there's technically a registration entrance no matter where your cab drops you off. That's why there's two. It's why we call out the streets. Even if you tell your cab to drop you on Wapping, for instance, they may drop you at Pennington. So I wouldn't worry about it. Like if you get in a cab and just tell them tobacco docks, you can enter either way. That's why we do it this way. Wapping Lane is technically more of a busy street than Pennington. Pennington has like an alley behind it where people can drop off. That's usually where they'll drop you off. So it's just to say that if you enter on that side, that's fine. You can walk in and registration will be open on that side. And then you can just walk up the stairs to where everything else is. So it doesn't matter where you get dropped off, as to say, like you're going to hit registration no matter where you walk in the doors. That'll be the first thing you hit. So if you're on one side or the other, don't walk all the way around, just go in because we will have the means to do that. Obviously, you'll see other people walking in, but I just want to call that out for sponsors of like, if you get dropped on the wrong side, it's really not the end of the world. Just walk in. You'll see reg is the first thing. You'll get your badge and then you're good to go. Okay. I think we've had a few people ask about the audience breakdown. So I think I have a few. Oh yeah, that's a good call out too. I think I have a few tips on this. I was like, wow, great call out, self. I think I have a few tips on this later in the like how to staff your booth, but calling out that 45% are C-level and above, plus another 27% are director level and above. This audience is, strong in terms of execs that are coming. I know I say it later when you read this later, but it is, the top 3 countries are obviously, if you do you count the UK as London still on Brexit, but London kind of being or GB, I should say, kind of being the first, a core audience that sends delegates to Europa, the rest of, Europe being number 2. North America being number 3. And I have checked this as of yesterday. It is still number 3. So I call this out later, but calling it out now in terms of like staffing and how you're sending folks, because I see people registering their teams. Want to make sure you have at least probably one person who is like, North America territory, because that will be a third of the audience. So calling that out, I think that's not probably super clear in that breakdown, which is our bad. But yeah, just calling that out that, should probably plan to have hopefully at least one person who can speak to, maybe North America specific for your platform and audience, just because we do have a fair amount of people coming from there. So calling that out. Okay, we've kind of touched on this, but where do I need to check in and go when you get there? We've talked about the 2 entrances. The other thing I'll say, which is important for sponsors, Everyone on your team should be registered individually. You do have to go pick up your own badge. So like if Waylon's coming and I'm coming and Brian's coming, I can't come get mine, Brian and Waylon's badge. I'll get my badge. Brian gets his badge. Waylon gets his badge. So everyone needs to pick up their own badge. You cannot pick up early for somebody. They need to pick up their own badge. We do daily ID checks. So like if Amelia picks up her badge on Tuesday, Amelia has to come back Wednesday. She can't give it to Ashley and say, oh, she's a girl. Like they're not going to check. We do check IDs. So badge swapping is strictly prohibited. It just means like if you have more team members than you originally thought, just email me events@SaaStr Inc. We can help increase your ticket allotment because we want to make sure everyone has their own pass to the show. Super important. Also super important you do it through us so that you have the sponsor access, which has all that early access times versus just a normal attendee pass. Also important for customers that you use the attendee pass for them because you don't want to give them accidental early access. So yeah. Any other questions? We'll be on site during the event. I've put my number here. You can text my cell or call me. I would say text me first. If you try and call me, I'm usually running around. But I can answer a text really fast. So at any point, feel free to text me during, before, now, whatever you want. That is my real cell phone number. So Samira has a great question in the chat. Will a copy of passport for ID suffice? Yes, it will. So we've done things where, if you have a photo of your passport on your phone or your driver's license, as long as you match up to that, right? Making sure it's you, that's fine too. I appreciate some people don't want to like carry their passport to the venue. So great question. Schedule we've hit and it's in the portal. So I'm going to skip some of this. Again, just if you haven't registered your team here, friendly reminder to register your team. You should have your code in your email. These instructions are also in the portal, but just to call out, I know I've seen some more of you do it this morning. But yeah, make sure you register your teams. How should you staff your booth? So this is one where Brian and Waylon will jump into. We've talked about it a little bit, but again, just keep in mind these factors because we do see you guys registering and kind of like finalizing your staffing. So as I mentioned, our top countries are UK, EU, and North America. So if you miss out on having somebody who is North American, like territory based, you might miss out on having like a better conversation with those folks in that audience. And then, yeah, Brian, I don't know if you want to take the next point on having a C-suite member in your booth to do booth duty.
Yeah, I think my point might touch a couple of points here, but the first, yes, have an executive in the booth. Why? Well, there's probably nothing more powerful on talking about your product than your CEO or founder. But if you don't have them, your CRO or CMO is probably also really good at it, and you should probably be there. If they're not good at it, definitely look at that CEO or a CRO and ask questions. But that said, definitely have those people there, be in the booth. They should be talking to customers. They should be you have to remember our audience is mostly founder and exec, and they like talking to like-minded, like titled individuals. I would also say there's nothing more intimidating than having a booth of 12 AEs and SDRs standing around waiting like a mouse trap. Okay, don't do that. That's not going to give you the return that you want. You can have a couple in there for sure, but if they're all, I have visions of booths in past. I've been doing this a while where they built this beautiful lounge, and in the lounge was full of that company's employees ready to pounce. Don't do that. It's not going to work. Try to envision the environment you're looking to create, and then match the right people.
Match that vibe. I would say too, we'll let you guys read, you guys are all smart. You've all been in the portal. You all submitted your graphics in time. So I'm like, I'm sure you'll read all these slides. So we'll just call out too, we recommend a mix of, exec, sales, marketing, and product just based on the folks who are registering to 2024. And last thing I can't say enough is, rotate your team members if you really can at all possible. That helps you take advantage of things like, content, sitting in content, chatting with the audience members, going to lunches, going to happy hours, doing brain dates, right? Like if they're stuck at the booth all day, you can't really do that. Really recommend if you're able to, even for a little bit, to rotate folks. Go ahead.
Really, really important point here that you just touched upon, Amelia. The ROI won't just come from your booth. Okay. If you're counting only on your booth for ROI and nothing else, you missed the concept of SaaStr
Yeah.
entirely. We're not just an expo floor
Yeah,
at
it's true.
like a different event, right? Like, oh, we have to staff it. No, no. Like we give really incredible opportunities for really personal connections on site. And if you don't take advantage of them, you're missing out on the ROI of the show.
Yeah.
So that's
And your
really,
lead scanner works. It's
it
not like
works everywhere.
proximity
Yeah.
sensor just for your booth, right?
Agreed.
Like it'll
A
work if
hundred
you're,
percent.
yeah, talking to somebody, at a brain day during happy hour outside by the ships. Your lead scanner still works there.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
all right. What should I wear? We've gotten this question a little bit, so this is a great throw out to the Hook team, who I think is on this call. But yeah, they did this cool. I think they've done this highlighter for the last. I was looking at other Europa events, and I saw the highlighter at other events, so I was like, oh, I think they've done this for the last few years. But they
They
go
may have
highlighter.
they may have shared with me their plans for this year. I may or not be
Oh, you
very
already know. Okay.
excited by it. Okay,
Okay.
very excited by it. But
Don't steal their highlighter idea, but
no,
the
but
idea.
they totally get the idea.
Yeah, the idea is, to wear something that, if you if you wear something, I mean, the overall dress code of the event is business casual, right? That's just our overall dress code for Europa. You will see attendees in like, a blazer, but their company shirt, or like a skirt in their company shirt. So, yeah, people do try and stand out. I will say one thing that I'll call out. If you do have somebody who's coming in costume, please tell us. Otherwise, our security is going to think it's an attendee just trying to crash the party. That way, I'm serious. Like,
I know.
I know I'm like too serious about this as a real thing, but like, just tell us. Like, if you have a mascot that's coming or a costume, whatever it is, again, totally fine. We encourage it. We would just like to know so that we don't like stop them at the front door being like, oh, are you part of a sponsor? And then we have to go check and it's a whole thing. Like, just tell us, even if it's last minute, you could just text me like, hey, I've got, people coming in, I don't know, costume. I'll be like, okay, tell me their names so I can get it to our teams and security, right? And give security a heads up. Otherwise, security is going to be like, why are you coming in this costume? So again, just that is the venue's security. So just please let me know. I'll get it out to the teams. If you do have folks coming in costume, I love it. We had some people last year for Europa come in costume. Again, it's allowed. I don't care. But just tell us. Just tell me. Okay, cool. Accessibility, as I mentioned, there are some steps. The other thing I'll say for tobacco docks especially, it is a historic venue, so as you can kind of see in this photo, there's a lot of these like flagstone and like cobblestone steps around. So yeah, wear comfy shoes, because I don't recommend like wedges or heels in cobblestone. Like sneakers or like cool sneaks are your friend. Cool snakes. Okay, we've already talked about the sponsor hall because we did the walkthrough. The last thing I'll call out is, to Brian's point, everything is manufactured around making sure these are extremely high traffic areas. We did this last year, which you get all the benefits of like, we kind of actually moved one of the sponsor halls to be where some of the more traffic was last year. So you get all that to say you are going to have all day foot traffic, right? There's early birds, there's late birds, there's people who skip content and go talk to sponsors. Like, because both areas are also like in between where stages are, you have a natural all day traffic. So again, maybe unlike other shows that you've been to, kind of plan for this. It's not just during happy hours, right? I think I've talked to a lot of sponsors now who said like, I'm kind of used to other shows where, it's kind of just in the mornings and then just during happy hours. Plan for all day. So again, that's why it's super important to rotate people, but just things to be mindful of. Okay, reminders on the booths. We'll try and hit quickly. The cabinet that you guys all have does lock. However, SaaStr and Dagger, I say this for all SaaStr, I would not leave high value items in there overnight. We also have managed storage, but like if you're giving away like a high value item as like a price point, I've seen a lot of sponsors lately not actually bring the item with them. They'll be like, win a Peloton, but it's like, come talk to us and then we'll ship you the Peloton, or we'll ship you an Xbox, or I saw like a PS5 last year, or I don't know. I saw a lot of like high value item or like a phone, VR headset, whatever it is. Like, you don't always have to bring it with you. So just calling that out. Things like laptops, I would still take with you overnight. There is 24/7 security, but again, just for peace of mind, I would take any of your high value items with you. You also probably need your laptop to work from in the evenings and check your leads. So yeah, again, That's all that. If you're shipping a bunch of swag and you're like, oh, it's not all going to fit in this one cabinet, don't worry. We do have managed storage on site. Just work that out with, GSM and Lynn, who's on our shipping team there. She'll help you manage kind of like, and she's really great about going out and like around between her and our SaaStr team. We'll make sure like if you're like, oh, hey, I'm feeling low on my swag, can someone, help grab a few extra boxes? We help do that so that your booth looks really clean and tidy. So want to keep it clean and tidy. Monitors, I think, as you guys know, are mounted. They do have a standard HDMI hookup. So how that works is like, the HDMI will come around to your front cabinet, basically. So you're not just like dangling your laptop from the mounted monitor, and then you hook up there. So if you're a Mac person like me, bring a dongle. We'll have some extra, but just bring a dongle because all Macs are a little finicky. So you might have a dongle that works with yours, but not mine. Yeah, what else do I want to say here?
That's a fire call out on the dongle. I remember
Dongles, yeah.
one show. I can't remember how long it took me, but I went to like 3 or 4 stores looking for dongles. Don't be me.
I always bring in my bag. Well, one, I always have an extra dongle. I always bring a dongle and then a clicker. So I didn't put that on the slide. But if that's one of those things where you're like, I want to click through the slides that are there and I don't want to be tied to the cabinet all day, just bring a USB clicker. I always have one in my bag because I've been trained to. But yeah, I always bring in like a dongle and a clicker and then an extra AA battery because if one of those things dies, then you need a battery. Also, like us, if you're coming from North America, bring the power adapter thingy, travel thingy, because
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that. I mean, you're gonna bring one anyway, but you might only bring one for your hotel room, right? You might not be like, oh, let me pack an extra one for the booth. So yeah, if you're American, bring the adapter guy.
Get the correct one for London too. It's different than rest of Europe. You have to get
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, pro tip. Again, we'll let you guys read through this, but I think a few people were asking, if I'm a super gold, what does my stool look like? They all look the same, so they're white. They're kind of just neutral. All right. We talked about the HDMI. Power, I'll call out because I think this is a question I've gotten a lot, is like, how does power work? How much power do we have? So, your monitor is going to be mounted to the booth. The cable for the HDMI will come around to your cabinet and basically go through the hole at the top. Same thing with power. The power will live in the cabinet. It's a what they call a four-way. We just call it a power strip here, but it's a four-way, and that's why I called it a four-way power strip. So you get a power strip. Again, if you have to plug in adapters like I do, you probably get less of the power strip because those adapters take space. But you do have a strip, right? It's not just one plug. So you got a strip. You can probably plug in 3 or 4 things depending on how big your plugs are. Because I know, like, for instance, the MacBook plugs are really big and the PC plugs are just small. So depends on what you're plugging in. There's 4 ways, so there's 4 slots. If you need more than that, let us know. events@SaaStr.com. We can help you order more. I think most folks are set with the 4-way, and you could rotate who charges whatever. Again, pro tip, I don't have mine on my desk, but bring your, detachable portable battery for your phones and stuff. That's just a good way. I'd say especially for lead scanning, which I think is on the next-ish slide. Okay, coming up. But whatever phone or devices you're using for lead scanning, I would definitely just like put a battery on it because it does suck up some battery. So keep that in mind. Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi at SaaStr Europa is, venue-wide, etc. For most purposes, you will be fine on venue Wi-Fi. The Super Gold, Platinum, and Diamond sponsors do have one hardline included. If you're a gold sponsor, you need a hardline. Again, just email events@SaaStr.com. These are the options over here. If you need extra hardlines, or if you're a Super Gold, Platinum, and Diamond and you need more than one, these are the options for hardlines. It's just different speed. Honestly, you're probably fine with 4 or 10 depending on what you want to do. But if you have like a super beefy demo, might be worth getting a hard line just so that you know that it works. Or, some people have done like preloaded demos in their environment. So either one works, but just calling out for Wi-Fi situation there. There will be, once we get on site in like your final email, you'll get the like code for like the sponsor Wi-Fi because we'll have like, attendee Wi-Fi sponsor. So you'll be on your own sponsor Wi-Fi, and we'll share the password. You can also just ask us when you get there. Okay, lead scanning, gonna cover this quickly. So there's nothing to do now, I'll say that, except for nominating a primary user to be your admin on lead capture, which many of you have. I'm still missing a few. So if you haven't done that yet, let me know who should be your admin. I just need their name and email, obviously which company it's from. How we do this is actually a little bit better, I would say, for Europa this year. So I'm just gonna click the portal here for logging into our backend. So this is what it's going to look like once you get invited. So no one's been invited yet. So even if you've said Amelia, here's who I nominate to be your admin. We've not sent the invites out yet. They don't go out until May 17th because again, there's nothing to do. There's no one to scan yet. You're not going to scan your dog. There's nothing to do yet. Once you get access on the 17th, there's a few things you'll need to do. And I linked a whole guide here. So there's a whole guide that walks you through what you have to do. It's super easy, right? We obviously use Bizzabo for registration and also the lead capture. So you'll see some of this is within the Bizzabo catalog stuff. That's fine. There's a whole guide here of what to do. Basically, you're going to come in, set up your profile. You can add your additional staff members here. There's a whole guide here of how to do that. So if I'm the admin, Amelia, I can add Brian, I can add Waylon so that they're set up to scan on their devices. And then really the thing you're going to want to do after that is configure your capture form. So in this, you'll see you can set it, and this is per person, right? So I'm logged in because SaaStr has its own account for scanning at the event. You can drag and drop things here as you want, right? So if you want people's addresses or from I don't need it on the, oh no, so it's gonna upgrade me. If you're I don't want it on the element, you can just drag and drop these things over. And that's how you do it. If you want to do things like custom questions, right? There's a few ways you can do that. So you can do things like check boxes. If you're I want to check if they're a hot lead, or if I want to check, I actually talked to this person versus just scanning them, or they took our activation. You could do checkbox, you can do radio, you can do a section for notes, right? Notes, survey. You could put a selfie with the lead if you want to remember what they look like. So again, it's a little bit more configurable of what you can put here based on what your company needs to address. The standard things that SaaStr provides in the lead capture are name, so first and last, email, company, job title, and then country. Phone is optional for attendees, so I'll call that out. If you really want phone numbers, I would ask them for their phone number because it's optional for us and most people don't fill it out. So again, if that's one thing you really want, then I would make sure you add that to your lead capture form so that your team fills it out as they go. Other than that, it's super easy. As you've seen in that back end, I don't have any leads yet because there's no one to scan. But once I do, they will show up here in real time. You just refresh and then your leads will show up in real time. So you don't have to wait for us to send you leads. It's all in real time. So your admin can go in at any time and just, refresh and then download your leads. You can just export these as a CSV. So super easy there. If you have any questions after you get onto the platform, obviously just let us know. We've talked about the meeting room. We'll talk a little bit about customer passes here just because it's all within the vein of registration and activation on site and making the most of your sponsorship. So a few of you already know about this. I'll just cover it off for the group. One thing we've done for the past few annuals, and I appreciate a lot of you are also annual sponsors. So many of you asked us for this for Europa, is we do these things called customer passes where you can bring your customers or prospects on us. If this is something you want to do for Europa, again, just let us know. You can nominate up to 5 people. Some of you already have a spreadsheet going with us. If you don't, again, just email us. We'll make a spreadsheet for you, or you can just plan to say, hey, Amelia and events team, I want to do this. I'll plan to email you our nominations. It's really easy. We just need, their same registration details that we would need to register them. So, first name, last name, company, title, country, all that stuff, email. And we will see if they're already attending or not. And then if not, we will ticket them. So it's super white glove. Highly recommend taking advantage of this. Brian, I know you've had a lot of people do customer passes. Yeah, how do you position it or think about it just to make it easier?
I think it's really depends on the company. Some companies use this as a giveaway in a way to their customers. I know one in particular is hey, it's an incentive they use around their top customers to get things done with that need an action item. Others are really looking for that opportunity and intimacy of meeting with their customers more in person. I think we kind of got away with that. It got away from that a little bit in COVID, and it's been really hard for a lot of brands to get back to. But getting in front of your customers is super hard. I think the other thing too is budgets have been pretty restricted on a lot of companies in terms of
Yeah.
traveling and getting there. So this is a really great way to bring a bunch of people into one place at once, right? To have more of that proactive connection point. I think that's kind of the big ways I've seen it. And again, for those that know the SaaStr community, these are really valued. Your customers are going to love these. If they don't know who we are, well, one, remove the rock that they're underneath, but two, just that's the it's probably not the best fit, right? But if they know us, they're going to value this big time, and they
Yeah.
totally and you're gonna be a superhero for offering it to them. So
Yeah. And tickets are like, oh, they're like the last minute ones. So they're like 9.99 right now. Like they're not cheap right now because they're the last minute ones. So yeah, it's a good value add for either customers or active prospects that you have in the area. Again, if you want to take advantage of it, just email me, CC Events at SaaStr. We'll get you all set up. I know some of you are already set up. I think the majority of you are, but just calling that out for everyone else. Okay, activations. So many of you are already doing activations, but I think I had a few people ask like if there are any last minute ones they could still do. So I'm putting them here. So, and by last minute, I mean, please tell us within the next day or two if you want to do these or early next week. Because some of them you can brand, some of them are more just like turnkey so they can come to your booth. Super easy. Activations, we say this is annual. I'll say it for Europa. We've always seen like, a 40 to more lift on leads and scans when you have an activation in your booth. I appreciate some of you that don't have activations are in a gold booth, and so you don't have a lot of room. These are small. These are like small ones that can fit within the bounds of a gold booth. So that's covered off on. If you want to do any of these, take a look at the list. Again, email me in events@saastring.com. You can CC Brian or Waylon or David if that's your guy. And yeah, we will help, try and do the best we can to make this happen for you if you still want an activation. The other thing I'll say, if you're bringing your own like games or don't bring your own food because it's not allowed. But like if you're bringing your own anything else that's not food, because food has to go through the venue at all of our events. Let us know again, just if you're bringing like, any games or stuff. I know some people brought some games last year that required power and then they were like, oops, I forgot to order power. The more we know about what you're bringing, the better. Just helps us to make sure, you have all the right things and also that we can keep a heads out for it because we're there early. So yeah, that's what I'll say on activations. Again, if you have any further questions, let us know. Networking. So hopefully, I mean, a lot of you are on here. So hopefully you got my email that invited you to this webinar, but also did a brief overview on brain dates. Brain dates, if you're unfamiliar, at SaaStr are the primary way we do networking. So once you are registered, and I'll call that out, you do have to be registered for the event to get access into brain dates. Otherwise, you're going to get an error that's like, user not found. I will also say too, it's not instantaneous. So like if you register your team members and then you're like, cool, here's the link for brain dates, give it like half an hour before you're like, here's the link for brain dates. Like it does take a minute to sink in the air between Bizzo and brain dates. So just give it a second. But once you do that, yeah, really great idea to come in here. You can see there's already some really great topics in here that people have posted for, brain dates, super brain dates. And how this works is like, as a sponsor, you can join one of these existing ones, right? So if you wanted to join this one on, let's actually go to an encouragement for women founders, non-technical of SaaS startups. That's a cool one. If you're like, okay, actually, I want to do that. You would just book a spot and you would join that brain date. You can also host a brain date. So when you come in, the default that it jumps you into is what they call the topic marketplace. So this is where you're going to see all the brain dates that have already been posted. So it will also give you a good idea of like the kinds of things that people are signing up for, right? Because like this one, for instance, you can see, some people have already joined. So you can see, all right, like PLG, obviously that's going to be a good topic that people are going to want to join. This one on enterprise SaaS, people are joining this one, right? You can see when there's spaces populated, which ones people are joining, which ones are still open, maybe that you want to avoid doing a duplicate of, AI employee stuff. So that's kind of, to be expected on what's trending. So the thing you could do is like, okay, get a good idea here. And then if you wanted to host your own, you would create a new topic here. And then really you just pick if you want this to be a one-on-one or a group. I would say if you're going to do a group topic, we do treat them as like micro presentations. So a lot of times when people do a group topic, they will make slides. Like they will just, post up their laptop on the table and be like, I made slides about this. Those are the best group brain dates. Like make 5 slides and do your topic. If you don't want to make slides, do it as a one-on-one. I would say the groups that where the host doesn't make a slide, at least a couple, it's really hard to follow along with what they're saying. So again, if you want to put in the effort to do the slides, do a group brain date. If you just want to do like a one-on-one on like, hey, I just want to talk about, AI in marketing. I can't spell. I'm going to say, okay, that's, trending. I'm going to say it's a one-on-one. And basically a one-on-one means it's going to post this topic once it goes through moderation. And then people can join your brain date as a one-on-one and they'll pick a time, right? They'll pick a time based on your brain date schedule. You can set your own schedule and then say, okay, if Brian likes Amelia's topic, Brian can say he wants to join my one-on-one and then he'll suggest the time and then Amelia will accept the time and then your brain date is booked. So that's how that works for one-on-ones. For groups, you do have to pick a in real-time time. So I'll just show you that next. Marketing, hello. So if you do a group, it will make you pick a time. Right now there is pretty much availability, but groups will start to fill up. This is early days because we just launched brain dates. So again, if you wanna put in the time to do some slides and do a group brain date, highly recommend you do this now because groups do start to fill up fast. The other thing I'll say is, we do moderate everything. So whether it's a group brain date, a super brain date, or a one-on-one brain date, you'll notice that once you push like confirm, which I'm not going to do, it will go into our moderation queue. Meaning if you're not you guys, because you guys are great, but like if the topic is too much of a pitch or too much of a commercial or too much of a plug, the team will send this person back a note saying, this is too much of a product pitch. Please update your topic. Everything on Brain Dates is meant to be about, thought leadership, sharing, really great content, tips and tricks, right? Like it's meant to be, again, micro content. It's not meant to be, hey, come meet with me because I'm the VP of product at XYZ company. Like, okay, you could do that on LinkedIn. So it's meant to be thought leadership, right? And again, the best group brain dates are ones where the host makes slides. We do encourage your teams to do this, right? So I've seen some of you submit topics already, which is great. So I encourage everyone on your team to do this, but do it in a thought leadership way, right? So that you're giving back to the community. There's an open question. Can you host a brain date? So anyone can host a brain date. Again, it's just a matter of, do you want to host a one-on-one? Because again, it's still meant to be a thought leadership session, but you maybe don't have to make slides for a one-on-one. It's just more of a discussion, free-flowing discussion. But anyone on your team that is registered can host a brain date. Again, it just goes through that moderation queue. So if you keep it thought leadership, I don't think we've rejected any yet. There's been like 50 that have come in. We haven't rejected any yet, knock on wood. But if you keep it thought leadership or like, again, tactical, then your brain date will be accepted onto the platform. Okay, answered that one. Good question though. All right, few last tips and tricks because I know I think we're coming up to the end of the slides. Hopefully, sorry, I've made so many slides, guys. There are, as we mentioned earlier, kind of like 2 places to check in for your brain dates. So if you are booking brain dates, the group ones will be in the pub. The supers and the one-on-ones will be in eSmall 1, which is just across the way. So you're basically going to go like across and then across one more time. So super easy to get to. Also, if you check it in the wrong space, the brain date team will be like, your brain date's over there. And then they'll point you in the right direction. So it's okay if you go to the wrong area the first day and you get the hang of it. We try to break it up based on size so that people kind of got the gist of it. But, rooms are only so big. So we had to break it up into 2. Okay, we talked about brain dates. Oh yeah, shipping. So real quick on shipping. And then I think the last thing's the app and then final question. So sorry, this is an hour if you're watching back the recording. Swag guidelines, as you've noticed, things are indoor, outdoors, things like, portable chargers are always a hit. T-shirts, if you do them creatively, are always a hit. Again, I think something we've noticed folks are doing, and then we're doing this too, is like we're trying to like balance our order. And so if you're like, hey, I'm not sure how much I should really order, you can always just ask us. We can make a recommendation of how much to order. I wouldn't plan to give swag to like every single person because a lot of the sponsors have swag. We try not to be too wasteful, right? At these kinds of events. So again, keep in mind things like, if you want to bring games, whatever, just let us know. It is open air. So, right, last year we saw folks do things like, sunglasses, portable chargers. I think somebody did beach balls, I want to say. We did umbrellas, but then it didn't rain. So again, anything kind of that plays up to that is a great way to do your swag. I'll call out some things that are not allowed, which we touched on, and they are here. But again, anything that's food related has to be secured through the venue. That's just, a health. That's just a health permitting thing. Sound and portable speakers are not allowed because not everyone would do sound and portable speakers. But much like annual, balloons are not allowed. You can imagine because it is partially open air. They don't want the balloons to like fly and get stuck in the roof, and then they have to go get a cherry picker and get the balloon down. So don't bring balloons. Glitter, confetti, anything like that, that is going to cause a huge mess. It's not allowed. I'll call this out too. Drones are not allowed. You do have to have a special permit for it. Tobacco dogs, which you probably don't have. Like we just got ours. So SaaStr has one, and I will share our drone footage with you. But please don't bring your own drone, not even a small like Pixie, like definitely not a DJI. So don't, don't bring your drone. On that point of like DJIs, I know a lot of you have these like I do, and like GoPros. These are fine. Like if you want to come film your own thing, or if you're bringing a crew, again, just let us know so that we can get them registered. I know some folks last year brought their own like, videography and like social media crew. That's all fine. It's just we don't want them with drones because you need a permit for it for tobacco docs, and I don't want to get yelled at. So I'm happy to share SaaStr's drone footage with you if that's what you want. I don't care. Happy to do that if it helps your B-roll. But yeah, please don't bring your own drone to Europa or to annual. It's even worse annual because we're in the flight path. So yeah, definitely you have to have we have a permit for it, but you probably don't and don't need one because it's a lot of work. All right. Other than that, ship your stuff to the advanced warehouse. Please don't ship anything to tobacco docs. There are so many points of entry. This is maybe one call out if you're a sponsor of both events and like you're used to shipping things just to San Mateo because they're really nice and they'll just take they'll take all the deliveries and they'll give them to Amelia and they'll be like, you suss out who this goes to. Tobacco docs doesn't do that. They have a lot of entry points and like a lot of delivery drop-offs. They also have like their own co-working space in there. So if it's not for them, they will legitimately turn it away. I don't ship to them, just so you guys know. It's not like we have like a little inn and you're like, oh, I'm going to ship it to Amelia at SaaStr at Tobacco Docs. I don't ship there. So don't try that. Just ship to GSM. All the instructions are in the sponsor portal. Just calling out that hopefully you don't have to go through customs because if you do, I think the deadline's the 25th of May, which is upcoming. If you're shipping it from in country, which is like what we're doing, the deadline to get it to the warehouse is the 29th. So then they'll bring it to Europa. So yeah, that's the deadline. Also be mindful if you are doing something that is an international delivery, customs is really weird about things like water bottles, which is like a common swag item because it has touched food, right? So yeah, just be mindful of that if you are shipping anything from overseas. Less prevalent if you're doing it from in country, doesn't have to go through customs, and so it's fine. But if you are shipping anything that is, out of country or from like a home office, if you will, or like a home warehouse, keep that in mind. Yeah, don't ship directly there. I don't even ship directly there. I don't mess with that. So cool. There's a mobile app. So if you guys want to download the SaaStr Events app, it is live. The race dates aren't in there yet, but that will be in the next app update. But you can do things like, pick your sessions, which I do recommend you do now, get a lay of the land, all that kind of things. It will also have like your, if you use the app and you sign in, very handy for the day of, it will give you a QR code so that when you come to registration, you just like scan your QR code and then it'll pull up your badge so that we don't have to be like, who are you? So really helps there. Okay. Brian, anything I missed in the last couple minutes and then we'll do questions.
I have no idea how you could have missed anything. That was so comprehensive.
It's too dense though. I'm like, but
It's
it was
a
like an
lot.
hour.
But here's I think the big thing. One is that for all our sponsor friends on this call, we will make sure that you get this deck. That's an
Yeah,
important thing. So we will get this to you.
important thing.
You can dive through. Second is that we're your friends. We're here to help. So message us. We will help you. There's the events at SaaStr.com. You can also just message your
Yeah,
rep.
any of
We'll
us. Yeah,
help you. We got you.
yeah.
And then lastly, don't suffer in silence. Meaning like if even if you think it's a dumb question, there's no such thing. Just reach out. Like we're
Yeah,
here to help. That's the big
yeah.
thing.
I think that's a great call out. There's no such thing. I do apologize that this was so long, but hopefully that's why it's called the ultimate guide. Hopefully it's
It's
super
good.
helpful. Yeah,
Yes.
whether you've, activated at SaaStr or this is your maybe first time doing Europa. I know some of our sponsors this is their first time doing Europa. So hopefully it's helpful on the call outs of like, Europa versus annual. I think just final reminders from me if you take anything else away from this, and I see a related question in the chat. Um, in terms of booths, I know everyone has submitted their booth graphics. Proofs are getting generated today and tomorrow with the team that does it, so our fabricator. So as soon as I have those in my inbox, which I'm hoping is overnight tonight, you will have it in your inbox for approvals. So thanks for being patient on that. It is a new vendor we're using this year versus last year because it's a little higher quality. So it just takes a little bit more time to deliver that higher quality. So thanks for being patient, but you haven't missed anything there. Just be mindful of all of our tips and tricks for, staffing your booth, booking their travel, making sure people can still be an attendee of the event. I think that's really important. Really, I know a lot of you are like, why would I do customer passes when the whole point of this event is to get new business? I
Do
get it.
customer passes. Do it.
I
Just
know.
trust us. Do it. Do the customer passes.
It just helps with retention, I know
It-
it doesn't maybe personally help your metrics, but it will help your CS team and your
no,
CEO and your CRO. Like they'll be happy if you invite some customers.
live beyond attribution, folks. Just know NRR matters. Do the customer passes. You'll thank us later, I promise.
Yeah. Yeah, do the customer passes. Yeah, I can't stress that enough. I know I know some people are averse to it a little bit because they're like, it doesn't help my metrics. I'm like, the whole point of going to SaaStr is to activate new people. But,
You will.
there's so
Will.
many SaaStr articles on customer retention. So
Also, bringing your customers on site helps them talk to the customers you want to talk to, right? And like champion you. So again, do customer passes. That's a good idea. Um, okay. I'm Brian at SaaStrCo.com. So just
he is
email.
Brian at SaaStrCo. You could email events at SaaStr Inc. A lot of you already have my email. I'll go back to the slide that has, hold on, my number on it. This is my number that works internationally, so I'll call that out. So
Nice.
it is, I will say actually this is a pro tip. What slide did I put it on? Oh, it's on this slide. Hold on, I'll reshare. This is a pro tip. So I travel a lot for SaaStr and my carrier personally sucks. So I a long time ago for SaaStr just got a Google Voice number that I pay for. That thing works everywhere, guys. So that's the number that is here. It goes directly to my phone number, so I get it as like a